Okay, let's unpack this. Today, we're taking a deep dive into the profound, transformative impact of Cardinal Louis Santonio Tagle on the Catholic Church, especially since his promotion to his current, really pivotal Vatican roles. This isn't just a story about one man's career, is it? It feels like a fascinating look at the very soul of an institution undergoing a significant evolution.
It really is. What's truly fascinating here is how his journey, from Manila right to the heart of the Vatican, it isn't merely a personal ascent.
No, not just that.
Not at all. It's more a profound reflection, maybe even a catalyst for the Church's ongoing evolution in the 21st century. So we're going to explore the why and the how behind his influence.
Right.
Pinpointing exactly what has shifted and maybe where the Church might be headed under his guiding hand.
Our mission today, then, is to sort of cut through all the commentary out there and really understand the specific, tangible ways Cardinal Tagle has reshaped the Church's direction, its core priorities, and, well, its global public perception, too. We'll distill the key insights from the sources you've provided, offering you, our listener, a shortcut to being exceptionally well-informed on this pivotal figure and the truly great impacts he's had.
And the sources, they paint a really compelling narrative. It's one of hope, renewal, and significant, discernible shifts.
Shifts in what way?
Well, everything from the subtle nuances of his personal style right through to broad, sweeping policy changes across different dicasteries. We'll be looking at excerpts that vividly describe a fresh wind blowing through the Vatican.
I like that image, a fresh wind.
Exactly. And we'll pinpoint the concrete initiatives that exemplify this new direction. It's about grasping the subtle, yes, but undeniably powerful changes underway. Particularly those impacting how the Church engages with the marginalized. That seems key.
You might traditionally expect high-level Vatican leadership to operate with a certain, maybe reserved formality, steeped in ancient, unyielding traditions, perhaps.
Sure, that's the stereotype often.
But Cardinal Tagle's approach signals something quite different right from the very start. It feels like more than just a high-profile promotion.
Much more.
His presence is widely seen as a bold, almost strategic step toward a more inclusive, compassionate, and, well, globally connected future for millions of believers. This initial shift really catches your attention, doesn't it?
It absolutely does.
It hints at a kind of radical new way of being church in the modern world. A new era. Cardinal Tagle's arrival and defining vision. Okay, so with that understanding of his foundational approach, it gets easier to see how his unique style immediately translated into, well, tangible initiatives. What were some of the first, maybe most impactful shifts we saw as Cardinal Tagle stepped into these expanded roles?
Well, his appointment as titular Bishop of Albano, and maybe more crucially, his continued leadership as pro-prefect of the dicastery for Evangelization.
Yeah.
That marked an undeniable watershed moment.
Right, not just shuffling papers.
Definitely not. This wasn't simply another ceremonial reshuffle or some administrative update within the Vatican bureaucracy. No, this was unequivocally viewed as ushering in a wave of hope and positive transformation.
Hope and transformation. Strong words.
Very. And it signaled a distinct new direction for the Catholic Church, one that leaned quite profoundly and overtly towards inclusivity and compassion. That metaphor you liked, a fresh wind blowing through the Vatican, it's used consistently in the sources.
It seems fitting.
It perfectly encapsulates this dynamic shift. It implies not just a change in personnel, but a fundamental, almost vitalizing current of renewed purpose permeating the institution. A clear signal the Church was intent on turning its gaze outwards, especially to those on the peripheries.
And what immediately became apparent as this fresh wind started blowing was his core values, that deeply rooted pastoral approach you mentioned.
Exactly.
You hear about leaders who command respect, but Tagle's reputation for humility, openness, and profound pastoral care wasn't just a rumor, was it?
Not at all.
The sources emphasize it, immediately became the lived experience for those interacting with him and, by extension, for the broader church community under his burgeoning influence. It wasn't just a practice persona.
That's precisely it. It felt authentic. Unlike previous leadership styles that perhaps might have been perceived as more hierarchical, maybe distant, even impenetrable sometimes.
Right, the sort of ivory tower idea.
Yeah. Tagle's approach fundamentally fostered deep trust and actively encouraged genuine two-way engagement. He truly embodies a more accessible and relatable form of church leadership.
Which, in an institution with centuries of pretty rigid traditions, that's quite something.
It's nothing short of revolutionary, in a way. This personal style, characterized by a real willingness to listen and connect on a human level, it's absolutely foundational.
The bedrock, you could say.
Absolutely the bedrock. It's a foundation upon which all his subsequent initiatives have been so positively received and, crucially, effectively implemented across the vast global church. His ability to sort of disarm and inspire through genuine connection allowed the church to begin reaching people in ways that felt both authentic and really impactful. 2. Pillars of transformation. Cardinal Tagle's key initiatives.
So this foundational shift in leadership style, this very personal, authentic approach, it clearly paved the way for some truly impactful initiatives, things aimed at fostering greater participation, broader outreach. What was one of his first, maybe most impactful moves in that direction?
One of the earliest and I think most resonant initiatives was a renewed, almost radical emphasis on listening and profound inclusion.
Listening seems simple, but maybe not always practiced at that level.
Exactly. He immediately organized not just symbolic meetings, but tangible, in-depth sessions designed explicitly for marginalized voices.
Who are we talking about here?
Women, young people, migrants, the poor, giving them a platform to be heard at the highest levels of the Vatican. These weren't just photo ops. The sources describe them as real opportunities for genuine dialogue.
Real opportunities. Okay.
The goal was fostering deep trust and encouraging active participation from Catholics right there in their local communities. And this built directly on the immense momentum from the Global Synod on Synodality.
Ah, the synod connection. Makes sense.
Absolutely. This emphasis on truly hearing varied perspectives, particularly from those traditionally overlooked, it represents a significant and very deliberate shift in how the church historically operated, top down.
So it was about creating space.
Creating space, exactly, for voices that hadn't been systematically heard before.
And to make that even more concrete, more impactful, I understand pilot programs were actually launched in dioceses, allowing lay councils to participate directly.
That's right. Directly in pastoral planning, in outreach strategies, even significantly in financial oversight.
Financial oversight, that's big.
It is. This wasn't just a suggestion for consultation. It was about tangibly increasing transparency and shared responsibility within the church's operational structures. For the average Catholic, the sources suggest this was, a huge deal, wasn't it?
You'd think so. A real sense of empowerment, maybe?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The sources consistently indicate that this participatory model resulted in a marked increase in parish engagement, volunteerism, and a renewed sense of ownership among ordinary Catholics.
Oh, real numbers, real engagement.
Think about the impact. When people feel heard, when their unique experiences are valued, and when they're empowered to contribute tangibly, their connection deepens.
Yeah, true.
This participatory approach creates a powerful ripple effect, reinforcing a profound sense of community and shared mission. For example, in one particular pilot, I think it was in Brazil, lay councils were given direct oversight of specific community development projects.
And the result?
Unprecedented levels of local investment and a palpable sense of renewed vitality. It really demonstrated that shared responsibility wasn't just a theory, it was a practical reality that worked.
So that participatory approach, it didn't just stay confined to internal church structures, did it? It seems it naturally extended to Cardinal Tagle's deep-rooted commitment to social justice.
Unwavering commitment, yeah.
Drawing on his extensive experience as the former president of Caritas Internationalis, which, for our listeners, is the Vatican's huge confederation of Catholic relief and development organizations worldwide.
A massive network.
Exactly. His dedication to social justice only seemed to deepen in his new roles, leading to a profound revitalization of the church's outreach to the poor and marginalized.
Indeed. The Church of the Poor initiative, which he played such a crucial role in expanding and really advocating for, it became a compelling model for dioceses globally.
Not just a slogan, then.
Not just a theological concept or some abstract ideal. It involved forging concrete, operational partnerships with local Caritas branches, other Catholic charities, and grassroots organizations right there on the ground.
Practical purpose.
Very practical. Yeah. This holistic approach enabled the church to respond far more quickly and effectively to pressing, real-world crises. Things like devastating natural disasters, widespread conflicts, and the escalating challenges of mass migrations.
So faster, more effective response.
Right. He didn't just preach compassion. He helped build the infrastructure for it to be delivered swiftly and justly, effectively transforming theological principles into immediate humanitarian action.
And beyond the organizational structure, the immediate relief, There was a profound human and spiritual impact, too, wasn't there? The sources really highlight that Tagle's powerful, very personal call for Catholics to be witnesses of mercy truly inspired a new generation.
Absolutely. A generation of volunteers and activists. This was particularly evident in regions facing acute poverty, where his words translated directly into compassionate action and tangible support for those most in need.
That inspiration factor seems crucial.
It's absolutely vital. It's about translating abstract spiritual principles into lived commitment, fostering a deep, almost visceral sense of compassion that drives action. The sources recount how, during his visits to marginalized communities, Tagle wouldn't just speak from a podium. He'd spend hours listening to individual stories, offering a hug, a prayer, maybe a practical word of encouragement.
That personal connection.
Powerful. And this personal connection, often shared digitally later, became a powerful testament to the Church's mission. This emphasis on mercy, on direct engagement with suffering, on embodying Christ's compassion. It's a real hallmark of his ministry.
And it had a ripple effect.
It has reinvigorated countless individuals to join the Church's social mission, moving beyond just charity to advocating for systemic change and justice, making the Church a visible force for good in the world.
So, beyond fostering internal renewal and driving social action, Tagle also recognized the huge importance of building bridges, reaching out to other faiths.
Yes, that was clearly a priority.
Recognizing the critical need for interfaith understanding and collaboration in our diverse, often conflict-marked world, Cardinal Tagle made interfaith dialogue a very clear, undeniable priority. It seems he understood intuitively that the Church couldn't just operate in an isolated silo.
Especially not today.
Particularly in an increasingly interconnected global landscape.
Exactly. And he didn't just talk about it. He actively hosted and participated in numerous high-level interfaith forums. He consistently advocated for peace and reconciliation in really tension-filled areas.
Like where, for instance?
Well, the sources mention his work in Mindanao, in the Philippines, mediating local conflict. And he worked tirelessly to protect religious minorities facing persecution elsewhere. These weren't just token appearances for PR.
No.
No, they were genuine, sustained efforts to build deep relationships and foster mutual understanding based on shared humanitarian values.
And the impact of that.
The implications are truly profound. They significantly enhanced the Church's credibility as a vital force for peace. They opened entirely new avenues for collaboration on shared humanitarian challenges, poverty, climate change, you name it.
So a practical outcome.
It showcased a remarkably pragmatic and relational approach to global engagement, demonstrating that dialogue isn't just a diplomatic tool, but a path to practical cooperation for the common good. His nuanced understanding of interfaith dynamics in that Mindanao example really helped diffuse tensions and start a path to reconciliation.
So while building these crucial bridges externally, Tagle was also focusing internally, or rather, on connecting with people where they are, especially in the digital space, right?
Yes, a huge push there.
He has truly led the charge in modernizing the Church's outreach in the digital realm, which, for an institution with such a long traditional history, is an absolutely massive and, frankly, pretty audacious undertaking.
It really is. It requires a significant shift in mindset.
Absolutely. How did he approach it?
Well, he personally oversaw the launch of truly innovative digital catechesis platforms, moving beyond just static websites to create interactive modules, adapting ancient teachings for, well, modern attention spans.
Making it engaging.
Exactly. These platforms incorporated things like gamified learning elements, specifically for young people, and even established secure, anonymous forums for Catholics living in restrictive regimes where open worship is difficult.
Wow, adapting to very specific needs.
Precisely. This wasn't just about having a digital presence. It was about tailoring the message and the medium to new generations and to challenging, often clandestine contexts, reaching communities previously untouchable by traditional methods.
A recognition that evangelization needs new tools.
Absolutely. In the 21st century, yes.
And his personal presence on these platforms, that seems key to their success too.
Yeah.
Through engaging video messages, podcasts, active online Q&A sessions, he personally made the Church feel far more accessible.
And genuinely relatable, particularly to younger generations who, let's face it, live much of their lives online. It's one thing for the Vatican to launch a platform.
Right.
It's an entirely different and highly impactful thing for a high-ranking cardinal to be personally and consistently engaging on it.
And the results. Did it work?
The results, as documented in the sources, have been quite significant. This proactive, person-centered digital outreach led to a significant increase in online engagement and participation in virtual faith communities.
So a new way of being church.
Exactly. Representing a truly new and vibrant way of being church. It's about meeting people where they are, understanding their communication habits, and adapting the ancient message of faith to modern interaction.
Fostering a digitally connected faith community.
Precisely. Transcending geographical boundaries and traditional parish structures, bringing the church's message to millions who might otherwise feel disconnected.
Now, alongside modernizing communication, Tagle also championed modernizing internal governance, particularly through accountability, right?
Yes. Transparency and accountability have been absolutely central to his leadership ethos.
So,
He vocally supported and implemented new guidelines for financial management at both the diocesan and parish levels, placing a strong emphasis on ethical stewardship and responsible use of resources.
not always a popular stance within big institutions.
No, but vital for restoring and maintaining trust. And crucially, in directly addressing the Church's painful handling of abuse cases, he worked very closely with the Pontifical Commission for the Protection of Minors.
Ensuring protocols were followed.
Not just adopted, but rigorously enforced with tangible consequences. The sources note his insistence on regular, independent audits of these protocols. This demonstrates a deep, unyielding commitment to addressing past failures and preventing future harm.
Acknowledging the wounds.
Absolutely essential for healing.
His willingness, as the sources say, to confront painful realities, offer public apologies, and steadfastly prioritize the needs of survivors, that seems critical in helping restore trust.
It is critical.
Even as advocacy groups, quite rightly, continue to call for more action, more transparency.
Of course, the work is ongoing.
But it shows a genuine commitment to healing, which is a powerful message.
Indeed. These tangible reforms, especially in such a sensitive area, are deeply rooted in a leadership style that explicitly fosters unity and hope amidst significant, often uncomfortable change. He understood that genuine reconciliation starts with honest acknowledgement.
Moving forward with honesty.
Unflinching honesty and a profound sense of responsibility. Acknowledging historical shortcomings while working tirelessly to rebuild trust from within. This proactive engagement, rather than a defensive posture, has really been a distinguishing mark of his approach. 3. Leadership in action. Cardinal Tagle's personal style and influence.
So, these tangible reforms, these initiatives we've discussed, they're clearly rooted in Cardinal Tagle's distinct, very personal leadership style. His influence seems profound, far-reaching, stemming from what our sources describe as a unique combination of intellectual depth, pastoral sensitivity, and cultural awareness. How does this combination make him stand out?
Well, what's truly fascinating here is how this precise blend has shaped not just the strategic direction of the dicastery for evangelization, but also, subtly yet significantly, the broader atmosphere within the Vatican itself.
How so?
He stands out precisely because of his remarkable accessibility and his genuine, almost disarming interest in the individual stories and struggles of those he serves. This contrasts quite sharply with what might have been perceived as more distant, maybe austere, or purely hierarchical leaders in the past.
A very human, relational approach.
Exactly. For example, stories frequently emerge detailing his tendency to quietly engage with Vatican staff, from high-ranking officials right down to, say, cafeteria workers, asking about their families, their lives, a practice almost unheard of for someone of his stature.
And this accessibility, this personal touch, it's had a tangible impact on the working culture within the Vatican itself, hasn't it?
Oh, absolutely. Colleagues and staff from diverse backgrounds have explicitly noted a marked change in working culture under his leadership.
What does that look like day to day?
Well, meetings under his guidance are reportedly characterized by authentic, open dialogue, deep mutual respect, and a genuine willingness to actively consider new perspectives, not just presenting predetermined directives.
So less top-down.
Much less. He often begins gatherings with moments of shared prayer and quiet reflection, which subtly but powerfully sets a tone of humility and shared purpose. Staff members describe these sessions as remarkably different from previous, maybe more rigid environments.
Encouraging collective discernment?
Precisely. Rather than just individual assertion, it fundamentally shifts the dynamics of decision-making.
Staff members describe him as approachable, attentive, and quick to offer encouragement. These aren't just polite observations, are they?
No, they sound like deeply personal qualities that have clearly fostered a strong, palpable sense of unity and shared motivation among his team. It genuinely sounds like he leads by truly listening and empowering those around him.
Valuing individual contributions.
That's absolutely right. His leadership isn't just about grand strategy documents. It's profoundly about cultivating a healthy, collaborative, and spiritually grounded environment. This genuine care for his colleagues contributes immensely to the dicastery's effectiveness.
Building up people, not just overseeing processes.
Exactly. He leads by example, showing that vulnerability and empathy can actually be sources of strength in leadership.
His influence, though, it extends far beyond the Vatican walls, doesn't it? Actively engaging with local communities globally.
Yes, he's made that an absolute priority, visiting dioceses and parishes not just in Rome, but significantly also in regions often traditionally overlooked by central church administration.
Reaching out to the periphery.
Actively, making the church feel truly global in its embrace. His visits are consistently marked by what are described as simple gestures.
Like what?
Sharing humble meals with parishioners in their homes, genuinely listening with rapt attention to the concerns of local leaders, actively participating in community events with, unaffected joy.
Not grand official tours, then.
No, these are deeply personal encounters, designed to foster genuine presence, authentic connection. Sources tell stories of him spending hours engaging with children informally or sitting patiently with the elderly, truly absorbing their experiences.
And the implications of these simple actions.
Profound. These gestures have powerfully helped bridge that perceived gap between the distant Vatican and the everyday faithful. They reinforce the idea that leadership is truly present, attentive, responsive to everyday realities.
Dispelling that image of an aloof church.
Precisely. And this direct, personal engagement also serves as an incredibly powerful model for future leaders. It sets a clear precedent that authentic leadership is about service, about accompaniment, about understanding diverse lived experiences.
A practical demonstration of his pastoral heart.
Showing true authority comes from humble service.
This direct engagement, this emphasis on connection, it also inspires a new generation, doesn't it?
Profoundly. Tagle's distinctive leadership style has truly inspired a new generation of clergy and lay leaders across continents. Seminarians, young priests, they often cite his example as a compelling model for ministry in our complex world.
A huge impact on the church's future trajectory.
It is indeed. This model is deeply rooted in compassion, genuinely open to dialogue, and profoundly responsive to the needs of the marginalized, a significant departure from older, maybe more rigid models.
And lay people, too.
Crucially, lay people, including women, have found in Tagle a leader who genuinely values their contributions and actively encourages their sustained, active participation in the full life and mission of the Church.
That's significant given historical limitations.
Very significant. His encouragement has opened doors for new forms of leadership and service.
And this resonance, this ability to inspire, it extends to a growing international reputation, right?
Exponentially. His reputation as a bridge builder has grown hugely. He's frequently invited to speak at major global conferences, synods, high-profile interfaith gatherings. He's a sought-after voice now.
Listen to far beyond Catholic circles.
Yes. His unique ability to communicate complex theological ideas in remarkably accessible language, combined with his Filipino background and experience with diverse cultures, it allows him to connect profoundly with Catholics and non-Catholics alike.
Elevating him beyond just the church hierarchy.
Absolutely. He's respected in global humanitarian organizations, prestigious academic circles. He embodies a truly global perspective, bridging cultural divides with authentic understanding.
The global media seems to play a role, too, amplifying his influence.
Consistently. His interviews, public statements are widely covered, often highlighting his passionate calls for mercy, justice, solidarity with the poor, migrants' rights, and environmental stewardship.
Making him a recognizable and trusted voice.
Firmly establishing him as such in the global conversation. He effectively leverages these platforms to reach a broader, even secular audience.
He strategically uses media to advocate for crucial societal issues.
Making the church's voice heard in relevant, timely, impactful ways. He manages to simplify complex issues without trivializing them. However...
the however.
Yes. Despite this widespread positive reception, this undeniable impact, it's critically important to remember his journey hasn't been without significant complex challenges and intense scrutiny. 4. Navigating the currents. Challenges and criticisms.
That's an important point to emphasize. No transformative leader operates without facing challenges, and Cardinal Tagle is no exception. One of the most immediate, profound challenges was navigating that sensitive transition after Pope Francis's death and the election of Pope Leo XV.
An incredibly complex, emotionally charged time, absolutely. Filled with both deep spiritual reflection and, let's be honest, high-stakes Vatican politics.
How did he navigate that?
Well, as a close collaborator of Pope Pontius, he was right there, at the heart of the conclave. He witnessed firsthand the immense emotional and spiritual weight of it all, alongside the intense global media scrutiny.
What was his take on the atmosphere?
He described the atmosphere when Cardinal Prevost was elected Pope Leo V as one of holy resignation and holy fear, reflecting the gravity, but also a profound sense of unity among the cardinals, despite all the speculation about divisions.
Interesting. Unity despite the pressure.
Yes. And he noted that this experience profoundly reinforced his commitment to fostering communion and honest dialogue, even in times of uncertainty and monumental transition. It was a crucible, really.
Solidifying his dedication to cohesion.
Exactly.
This complex environment then extended immediately to his administrative duties, overseeing that vast global network. His role as pro-prefect of the Dicastery for Evangelization, the old Red Pope office.
Right, named for its immense influence.
He had to balance the demands of a truly global church, especially its vibrant growth and developing world, with the practical, often rigid realities of Vatican administration. That sounds incredibly challenging.
It requires an extraordinary blend of spiritual discernment and acute practical skill. The Dicastery oversees missionary territories, particularly the dynamic Catholic populations in Africa, Asia, Latin America.
So his leadership demanded
Incredibly careful navigation of complex cultural sensitivities, prudent resource allocation in areas of extreme poverty, and the often politically charged appointment of bishops in regions facing instability, upheaval, even persecution.
a job needing spiritual depth and diplomatic skill.
And administrative precision, managing thousands of personnel, vast budgets across continents.
And while his personal approach, empathy, openness, emotional transparency was widely praised, it also faced scrutiny within that demanding environment, didn't it?
It did, paradoxically. His distinctive style was a distinguishing feature, but I understand it wasn't always universally welcomed in the more traditional parts of the Roman Curia. Well, while countless observers and ordinary faithful commend his compassionate, relatable approach, some critics within the more conservative or institutionally rigid factions questioned whether such emotional openness was suited to high-level Vatican governance.
Dismissing him as too sensitive.
At times, yes, or too emotional. Viewing these qualities as potential liabilities in the highly politicized, often guarded environment of the Curia, which historically valued stoicism, perhaps, over emotional display.
But his authenticity resonated elsewhere.
Absolutely. The sources confirm his authenticity and willingness to show vulnerability endeared him to many, especially among the faithful in Asia and the global South, highlighting a potential generational or cultural divide in how his leadership is received.
His strength seen as a weakness by some.
Precisely.
These personal challenges were compounded by complex international relations, particularly the Church's fraught relationship with China. That must have been a persistent challenge given his heritage.
An incredibly delicate, strategically vital situation. He meticulously monitored the Vatican's ongoing, highly sensitive negotiations with both the official state-sanctioned church and the resilient underground Catholic community loyal to Rome.
The tightrope walk?
Constantly. His nuanced understanding of these dynamics, born from his heritage and expertise, made him an invaluable asset in maintaining those fragile but crucial lines of communication between the Vatican and Beijing,
While advocating for Chinese Catholics.
simultaneously advocating for their fundamental rights and religious freedoms. His background offered a unique perspective, a bridge-building capability few others possess in such a sensitive arena.
While these diplomatic skills are widely lauded, questions about his administrative capabilities also arose sometimes, didn't they?
They did. Despite being recognized as a gifted communicator, pastor, theologian, some observers and critics occasionally questioned his direct management skills. This came to a head publicly with the 2022 leadership shakeup at Caritas Internationalis.
Ah, yes, the Caritas situation.
That's a critical point. He and the entire leadership team were removed amid allegations related to financial oversight and staff management culture. That certainly raised eyebrows, generated media attention.
But he bounced back.
It's imperative to consider his remarkable resilience and continued, even deepened, influence in the Vatican after that setback. It suggests a profound capacity to learn from adversity, adapt, and maintain the confidence of church leadership.
So setbacks don't negate long-term impact.
Not necessarily, especially in vast, complex organizations like Caritas. It speaks more to his ability to navigate difficulty, internalize lessons, and continue contributing significantly, reaffirming his great impacts overall.
And these administrative challenges, they intersect with his advocacy for marginalized groups, which itself faced internal criticism.
Yes, they do. Pastorally, Tagle has consistently been a vocal, courageous advocate for marginalized groups, migrants, the poor, LGBTQ+ individuals, divorced or remarried Catholics.
And that inclusive stance wasn't universally popular.
No, emphatically not. His stance sometimes drawn pointed criticism from more conservative factions, who saw it as departing from tradition or doctrine. However, it also, crucially, positioned him as a bridge builder in an era marked by polarization and change.
Reflecting internal tensions within the church.
Exactly. As it grapples with contemporary realities, Tagle's strength lies in articulating a compassionate path forward, seeking to accompany all, rather than alienating segments. He embodies the tension, but seeks unity through dialogue.
Expanding the tent, not shrinking it.
Well put.
And finally, he had to directly confront the ongoing abuse crisis.
One of the most painful, enduring challenges. He publicly acknowledged the profound need to address the deep wounds of sexual abuse, consistently supporting extensive efforts to improve safeguarding protocols globally.
But some called for more.
While he advocated for robust measures, stricter vetting, transparent reporting, some advocacy groups called for even greater, more immediate accountability and transparency, both in the Philippines and internationally.
Arguing more decisive action is needed.
Yes, highlighting the continuous, legitimate demand for more radical systemic change, even as Tagle pushes reforms. Despite all these significant challenges, transitions, critiques, pushback, his leadership remains defined by his commitment to dialogue, compassion, and unity.
Looking at these challenges and successes together, we can see a clear contrast in the Church's direction before and after his elevation, can't we? A church transformed. Comparing before and after Tagle's rise.
Absolutely. If we step back and look at the bigger picture, it becomes abundantly clear. Tagle's elevation marks a truly significant turning point.
How so? Thinking about before him.
Before Tagle's rise, the Vatican's missionary and outreach efforts often followed a more centralized, maybe top-down traditional model. It was sometimes criticized, fairly or not, for lacking sufficient local sensitivity or adapting too slowly.
A bit cumbersome, perhaps.
Potentially. But with Tagle's leadership, there's been a very noticeable, palpable shift toward a far more personal, deeply empathetic, and highly context-driven approach.
Driven by his background.
Directly and profoundly influenced by his own background, rooted in the experience of poverty, forged in diverse cultures. He consistently insisted the Church must not turn back from the pro-poor, pro-marginalized agenda Pope Francis initiated.
And that led to
Greater inclusion of these vulnerable groups in critical consultations, decision-making, effectively decentralizing and humanizing the Church's global mission, a fundamental reorientation focusing on the human person.
this new focus, this empathetic reorientation. It's also reflected in the Church's public witness and tone, isn't it?
Profoundly. Tagle's emotional intelligence, his genuine humility, his pastoral style. They've collectively made him a symbol of a more approachable and compassionate church. It changes perceptions from the outside and the experience from the inside.
And his approach to difficult issues, like abuse.
His remarkable willingness to openly address painful issues like clerical abuse set a new standard for transparency and accountability. He hasn't shied away from acknowledging the Church's failures openly, repeatedly calling for institutional healing.
Contrasting with a more defensive tone previously.
Arguably, yes. Contrasting with what might have been perceived as more cautious, defensive, or evasive in the past. While critics rightly pressed for more, Tagle's approach fundamentally shifted the public conversation, making honesty and contrition central.
And this open, compassionate tone extends to complex social issues, too.
Powerfully. He consistently advocated for a more understanding, less judgmental, more welcoming approach to groups historically marginalized, LGBTQ+ Catholics, the divorced single mothers.
One of the most debated changes internally.
Most certainly. While this progressive stance inspired immense hope among many seeking a more inclusive church, it also inevitably drew sharp criticism from conservative factions, fearing a departure from tradition.
But his approach wasn't confrontation.
No, his approach has consistently been characterized by seeking dialogue and fostering gradual organic reform. His aim isn't to alienate, but to bridge divides, reflecting a nuanced strategy for unity while responding to pastoral needs.
Expanding the tent, as you said.
Exactly.
And these shifts in engagement are supported by administrative changes, though not without complexities.
Right. While his pastoral strengths are almost universally praised, those administrative questions, particularly after Caritas, do persist. It's not a perfectly seamless picture.
No, reality rarely is.
But nonetheless, his tenure has been marked by a clear willingness to learn from setbacks, adapt, and consistently prioritize mission and service over rigid bureaucratic control.
Indicating a shift in what's valued at the top.
A very tangible shift,
Yeah.
moving decisively towards a more service-oriented, people-centered model of administration. Effectiveness measured not just by rules followed, but by lives touched.
So in summary, this period represents a profound, accelerating evolution, the church becoming more outward-looking, empathetic, and engaged.
And what's most fascinating, perhaps most impactful, is that the most significant legacy of Tagle's influence so far is arguably that decisive shift from a more insular, Rome-centric model to one that profoundly values local realities, open dialogue, and radical inclusion.
A fundamental reimagining.
Yes. This evolution, though not without its tensions, debates, friction, has uniquely positioned the Church to better understand and respond to the diverse needs and hopes of people globally.
So what does all this mean for the future? A monumental question, and it feels like the answer is still unfolding. 6. The path ahead. Future outlook and enduring vision.
Indeed it is. Cardinal Tagle's profound influence signals both a strong continuity with Pope Francis's reforms and, simultaneously, a fresh, compelling promise for the Church's future trajectory.
How so?
His distinctive leadership style, humility, listening, consultative approach is already profoundly shaping the Vatican's evolving priorities and tone. These qualities are expected to play a central role in navigating the myriad new challenges ahead.
His unique ability to connect, his commitment to social justice, his global perspective, they seem essential assets now.
Absolutely essential for a church seeking enduring relevance and meaningful impact in our rapidly changing world. His background, experiences, spiritual qualities position him incredibly well.
What developments might we anticipate?
One of the most significant is likely the further deepening of engagement with the marginalized. His persistent advocacy for the poor, migrants, those on the peripheries, that's expected to continue shaping Vatican policy.
New initiatives focusing on empowerment.
Very likely. Initiatives focusing on empowering local communities directly, amplifying voices often left unheard. Building on his Caritas work, his emphasis on humanitarian action. Sources suggest this might mean more decentralized decision-making in aid efforts.
Putting power in local hands.
Exactly.
Setting a powerful, compassionate precedent. His personal experience makes his advocacy so authentic, doesn't it?
Incredibly authentic, compelling, relatable. It gives it a moral force globally.
And his background positions him for diplomatic roles, too.
Uniquely so, especially in delicate relationships, particularly across Asia. His heritage, cultural insights, diplomatic skills make him indispensable.
The China dialogue, for instance?
His pragmatic, empathetic approach there has been instrumental in maintaining those fragile but crucial lines of communication, even amid criticism and geopolitical complexities. This openness, this cultural nuance will be increasingly important as the Church expands its presence and influence in the global South.
Where sensitivity is paramount?
Absolutely.
Internally, his tenure has already encouraged a more participatory, transparent culture.
Significantly. Actively promoting greater involvement of lay people, including women and young Catholics, in fundamental decision-making, moving beyond tokenism.
And his call for a more empathetic church?
Resonated widely, inspiring grassroots movements. These efforts are likely to continue, even accelerate. Further reforms making church structures more inclusive, responsive, aligned with that concept of synodality.
A church walking together.
Listening to every voice. That's the vision.
But the road ahead isn't smooth, is it? Challenges remain.
That's the important caveat. Questions about administrative effectiveness, the Caritas situation, they persist in some circles. Some remain cautious about the pace of change.
But his willingness to learn is seen as a strength.
Widely viewed as a profound strength. His humility facing criticism earned respect even among skeptics, reflecting his remarkable capacity to learn from adversity, turn challenges into opportunities. Resilience is key.
Ultimately, his journey represents a powerful, hopeful vision for the church.
Deeply hopeful. For many Catholics, especially in Asia, Africa, Latin America, Tagle represents hope for a church both faithful to tradition and courageously open to renewal.
His vision leads by listening.
A church that leads by listening, that prioritizes mercy over judgment, and that seeks unity in diversity. It offers a compelling path forward, resonating with deep human aspirations.
As the church faces global challenges.
Secularization, inequality, interreligious tensions, internal reform, the expectation is Tagle's influence will help guide it toward greater relevance, compassion, authenticity. He truly is a pivotal figure in this ongoing transformative story.
Here's where it gets really interesting. What we've seen through this deep dive is how Cardinal Tagle's leadership hasn't just influenced, it's truly acted as a powerful catalyst for profound renewal.
Catalyst, yes.
From fostering greater inclusivity through, radical listening sessions and empowering lay involvement to revitalizing global social justice efforts with that impactful Church of the Poor initiative and bravely navigating the complexities of digital evangelization and those ongoing painful calls for transparency in the abuse crisis. His great impacts seem, well, undeniable.
Indeed. His personal blend of remarkable intellectual depth and profound pastoral sensitivity hasn't only reshaped Vatican operations, but has resonated deeply, authentically, with countless people on the ground.
Making the church feel more approachable.
More approachable, more attentive, truly responsive to the complex realities of everyday life, all while navigating significant challenges like caritas and internal criticisms. It's a powerful testament to his unique, resilient leadership.
So what does this all mean for you, our listener? Cardinal Tagle's journey feels like ultimately an invitation to all believers, really, and maybe all people of goodwill.
An invitation to participate.
To actively participate in the ongoing renewal of the church, regardless of your role. It's not just for the top brass. It feels like a shared endeavor.
And that raises an important question for all of us, doesn't it? Within any institution, any community, in a world grappling with constant change, escalating division, what does it truly mean to lead with both heart and mind?
How do you stay grounded?
How do you stay firmly grounded in enduring values while simultaneously remaining open to uncomfortable truths, courageously forging new paths? How might Tagle's powerful example inspire you personally to engage with challenges in your own communities?
With humility.
With humility, yes, a willingness to listen deeply and a real commitment to action.
It feels like a powerful call to move beyond fear, beyond polarization, to rediscover the joy-like strength of shared purpose.
The path isn't easy.
No, the path of transformation is never easy, and there will always be obstacles. But the immense achievements, the enduring spirit of leaders like Cardinal Tagle, they undeniably show that genuine, heartfelt transformation isn't just possible.
It's actively happening.